أهلا وسهلا. Good afternoon. صباح الخير, مساء الخير, depending on where you are. My name is Bassam Haddad. I am joined by my co-host and dear friend Maya Mikdashi for this 7th episode of Gaza on My Mind, Gaza ala Bali. And we are very lucky to have with us today two remarkable guests. Ali Hashem, who is a first-rate journalist who will be joining us momentarily to address the rising tensions with Hezbollah, and Hossam Madhoun from Gaza, who will be joining us to talk about Gaza and his travails and the conditions in Gaza. He had left Gaza several weeks ago, so he has a lot to share with us. And I almost feel, Maya, no, we should probably do this in Arabic, but بلكي المرة الجاية, maybe another time. I'd love to do one in just Arabic. أول شيء, Maya, كيفك?
I'm okay. Yeah. What? There's not much to say. أنا هذا السؤال بحس آخر سنة كتير هذا السؤال بتسأله وما في. We all have the same answer.
And I was told by Daryl Lee, a friend of ours, what سألته, how are you doing? And I think he gave me the best answer, and I said, I will use it if you don't mind, and I'll give you credit. He said, whatever. شو ما كان إنه كيف نام ما بعرف. طيب, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm not supposed to say this anymore, بس وأنا أصلا ما بقول ladies and gentlemen ever. I'd like to share with, I know it's so bad. I'd like to share a few things before we start. This is the 7th episode of Gaza on My Mind, Gaza ala Bali, Hezbollah and Israel's genocide in Gaza. We are doing this project for a number of reasons, the most important of which is that there is this expectation that Gaza will go away. And we are here to say that no, we are going nowhere. We are here to center Gaza in everything that we are doing in terms of keeping Gaza not just on our minds, but on the minds of everyone that is in touch with us, including our own colleagues. Many of us are exhausted. And people end up needing breaks, which is understandable. But this is not, as we keep saying, this is not 2008-9, December, January, with the first invasion after 2005, 6, 7 on Gaza. It's not 2014. It's not 2012. It's not 2018. It's not 2021. This carnage is different in kind, and we cannot afford to move away simply because things have subsided, and they have not in any case. So we are here to address the situation as well as the conditions in Gaza and the regional situation almost on a weekly basis. I will introduce my co-host, Maya Mikdashi. Just a few words. Maya Mikdashi is Associate Professor at the Department of Women and Gender Studies and the lecturer in the program in Middle East, a director of the program in Middle East Studies at Rutgers University, New Brunswick. Maya is an anthropologist and
This was an old bio.
Is the old bio, and is deeply engaged in ethnographic, legal, and archival theory and methodology. I will leave the rest for Maya to address before we bring in our guests, Ali Hashem and Hossam Madhoun or Hossam Madhoun. شو خربطت? What is the, besides the directorship and you being an associate professor?
Address is how for 3-4 times now كل مرة
send me the new bio.
بعثت لك إيه last time.
والله.
That's what I would like to address.
Is there anything that you'd like to highlight before we move on?
No, I would like to say a few words introducing you. Bassam Haddad is a professor of politics at George Mason University. He is the founder and locomotive of the Arab Studies Institute, and he has brought us all together with love and care, and he inspires so many people, and we're so happy to be in struggle together, Bassam and I. We're very good in struggle together.
Hala. Thank you, Maya. I'd like to bring in our guests at this point, Ali and Hossam. أهلا وسهلا Ali and Hossam.
مرحبا أهلين مساء الخير.
اهلا بك. مساء الخير.
أهلا وسهلا. أول شيء, let's just start with how is everybody doing? كيفك علي وكيفك حسام?
Well, not bad.
Not bad.
Well, very bad. I'm sorry, but not good at all. Sorry.
We are all very bad. We're trying to be not so bad so we can continue our work.
Yeah.
Sure. So let's start with Hossam before we get to the more regional matters. Hossam, we understand that you have been in Gaza for many. Of course, in Gaza, and only the past few weeks you were able to leave Gaza, and we'd like to hear from you. But if you don't mind, I want to read a part of your bio. Your bio and your accomplishments are many, but I will read a part if you don't mind. Samahat. Hossam Madhoun is a project manager at Humanity and Inclusion.
No. I'm sorry. I'm a child protection officer at Man Development Center.
All right.
I'm sorry.
And I'm reading from your bio. So if you would like to correct it, that's good. I also can share a few things and then you can add to it or correct if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah,
he's a 30 years drama activist as an actor, director, and trainer in drama, civil intervention, education, and drama therapist. Besides being active in theater and drama, Hossam is a child protection officer at Man Development Center, leading a team of more than 115 counselors and social workers who are providing psychological support and psychological first aid for children and families displaced from their homes to shelters in Rafah, Khan Yunis, and the middle area in the Gaza Strip. I'll stop here and ask you to add anything that we missed from your bio.
Nothing. That's all.
Azim.
That's absolutely all.
Hossam, can you just tell us a little bit about your journey from Gaza to where you are right now and your basic reflections at this moment before we get into specific questions?
Yes. Well, actually, we left Gaza City, where I live, to the middle area of Gaza Strip on the 12th of October when the Israelis started to threat to bombard all of Gaza. They asked all the inhabitants to leave. Majority of people, they ran for their lives. So I took refuge at my grandparents at the beginning with my bedridden mother. She's 82 years old. We stayed there in Nusayrat until the invasion and the bombardment started to hit Nusayrat early December, where all the family of my parents-in-law were gathering in one place. It's a small home of 2 rooms. There were, their sons, daughters, grandchildren, where I felt that I must find another place. So I displaced to Rafah. I was so lucky to be hosted by a man from Abdul Al family. So I was not in a tent like the majority of the people. I feel so lucky. Then my wife followed me. Our daughter is in Lebanon making her master's degree in human rights. What an irony, where human rights is completely thrown out of the window and not respected at all by the Israelis or the international communities, or at least the American administration and many European administrations are just witnessing these violations for human rights and they just shut eye or close ears, and they gave the whole space for the Israelis to commit all of these massacres against thousands and thousands of Palestinians. Uh, we have only one daughter. She was so panicked for us. We felt that if something happened to us, to me, to Abir, my wife, what will happen to our daughter in exile, outside, overseas, with no one at all, no support whatsoever? So we felt obliged, our responsibility as parents is to leave and to be with our child. To be honest, we didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave my bedridden mother with my poor brothers who have no means to take care really of her. My wife didn't want to leave. Also, her parents, who are also depending on her, but we felt our first responsibility toward our daughter. So we had to leave on 12th April, like 2 months already. We arrived to Cairo. We spent 6 months and 10 days under the bombardment, under the war. We went through all the horror, the terror, the torture, the agony that no one can imagine but one live it. Whatever words could be seen, could said, can never ever explain what is happening there. It's a continuous nightmare of every single moment, not only of being afraid of being killed any moment with random bombardment, but mainly those, you know, these drones in the sky all the time with its annoying noise, which they make it in purpose, so annoying you feel that it is inside your head, and you know that there is a young soldier behind the keyboard, like uh, using it as a PlayStation, a video game. You never know if you are going to be a target or not. I was walking my little dog in the street, and each time I think, wow, maybe this will be a very provocative image for them to see a civilized person in Gaza walking a dog. Let's kill him. Let's not show such an image of human beings in Gaza. I was cutting my walking because I was really afraid. I went back much earlier than I wanted home because I was invaded by these ideas. Every single moment you think that you would be killed collaterally or purposively, and you don't know why. And that happened for more than 40,000 people. You know, in the media, they are talking about 36, 37,000. We know in Gaza that there are more than 10,000 still under the rubble. Many of them are friends of mine. They are using every mean of torture and killing. When there is among the population of Gaza, the 2.3 million people, at least 20,000 people of kidney failure, more than 7,000 of cancer patients, injuring more than 86,000 people, and then destroying all hospitals, preventing any entry of medical supplies. That's absolutely slow killing, and it's purposive. When they prevent food to enter, this is a purposive starvation. They lead people for famine. They, when they cut water, they target water stations, water desalination stations. They cut the water supply, which used to come from Israel to Gaza. They just kill people slowly beside the direct killing. And they kill us with all means, by explosive our body, by hitting the buildings above our heads, smashing the bodies, under rubble. 17,000 children killed. 17,000. Every single child is the whole universe of a father or a mother somewhere. More than 9,000, 10,000 women just killed in vainly, just like that. It is not, it's absolutely anything but a war against Hamas. It is an absolute genocide against all Gaza people. When they destroyed more than 60% of all the buildings, the housing units of Gaza, when they destroyed all the infrastructure, the water, the sanitation, the electricity, the communication, when they destroy all the schools, all the universities, all the civil institutions, completely destroying it. This is not a war against Hamas. This is only a genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza. And as many of them, like the Minister of Tourism or whatsoever, he is asking to hit Gaza with nuclear weapon, and he's not even accountable for his incitement against the humanity. It's okay that the Israelis, whatever they do, it's okay. It is acceptable. Why? I'm sorry. I'm getting very tense and
ما يهمك. نحن كمان ما عنا كلام على هالموضوع، و ما بعرف شو بدي اقول لك. I don't know what to tell you.
People are starving. The people are dying. They cannot find food. I have salary. I have good income. But in Gaza, I could not find adequate quantities of food because there is no enough food in the market. The price is so incredibly increased. I arrived to Egypt with 18 kilograms loss of weight. I arrived to Egypt with severe malnutrition and anemia. I had to go to a doctor for the first 4 weeks, taking supplements and medications. Imagine those people who have zero, nothing. They stopped the life there, People are only trying just to be alive and nothing else. There is no works, there is no productions, there is no education, there is nothing. Only people trying to survive in tents and no one can imagine what is it to live in a tent, in a piece of plastic sheet or a fabric installed on a sand with no means of life under the rain in December and January, so cold that doesn't warm them. Now in the very hot weather with no ventilation at all, insects entering there, snakes, reptiles. They are not safe from the nature as they are not safe from the Israelis. And the whole world, it's like collaborating to support the Israelis against us. It's annoying me, this what so-called food airdrop. It is killing exactly as the air strikes. It's killing us because first, many times the parachute failed to open and fall on the heads of people. More than 7 people was killed by this food parcel. They are sending like 10,000 meals per day to feed 2 million people, where people, when it is reaching the ground, people are hungry, so they fight over it. They hurt each other because each one wants to take part, and that's a human instinct. That's fair. So they kill people in this way, and also they show it off in the media as if it is a mean to feed the Palestinians, so they spare the Israelis from their obligations to allow food to enter. I prefer not to see it. This should pressure on Israel to allow the food and the water and the medicine and the free movement to the Palestinians in Gaza. Now they destroyed the whole premises and the buildings of Rafah border crossing. There is no crossing. I don't know if I am going to go home any soon. And that's my nightmare. I cannot live here. Yeah.
Hossam, we are, I don't know what to say. We are very sorry. I have been in touch with a few people in Gaza since October, and the stories are horrific and much more than we see online on TV. And you sharing with us Halla is very precious for all of us to know that it's not just the abstract notion of a war and bombardment and a horrific death toll, but the daily things are also horrific. So
can anyone imagine to live the moment of fear continuously for 9 months, all the time, every single moment you are afraid for your life, for your beloved ones, afraid for your children, afraid that you are cannot feed your kids, all the time afraid. Can you live with one feeling all your life?
Maya, you have any follow-up or?
No, I think it's important. Hossam is sending the message to everybody that Gaza is not a news story. It's not something that is happening while you're reading it. It's life. It's how life is being lived every day, every minute, every hour. And I think sometimes that gets lost, especially in the United States, where, I mean, partly due to the desire of the American foreign policy, it gets relegated to a news story or something you see on a social media feed, and you don't understand that that war is not something, and genocide is not something that happens episodically. It just is. It becomes what life is, what life and death are. And I know, like, there's a story I couldn't get out of my head that I read months ago about children having heart attacks precisely for the reason that Hussam was talking about, which is the constant fear, the constant body being flooded with adrenaline, and what it means to live every minute through this destruction. And this is one of the ways it literally wears their bodies out. It wears their hearts out. How many times can a heart be broken before it is broken? So I have no words to add to this, Hassam. I mean, everything feels cheap, you know, in the face of this form of life, this way of living.
Hussam, we would like to continue speaking with you. We have some questions. I know this sounds insensitive, but we do have some questions to ask you about the conditions. But we will come back to you if that's okay. We'll address a couple of things with Ali, and apologize that we had the wrong name for a minute. The actual software was stuck literally, so we had to refashion the actual screen. In all cases, we will come back to you, Hussam, with a couple of additional questions, and we hope that you stay with us and, of course, join us frequently, as some of the people that we've been speaking with in Gaza have been. Especially that it's very difficult, as you know, to reach people in Gaza and so on. At this point, let's move to Ali Hashem, who has been with us before. He joined a really important teaching on the regional dimension between deterrence and escalation, and his contribution was shared very, very widely. Besides the fact that his work is shared widely in general because of his work and what he does. I'll say a couple words and then I'll come to you, Ali. I'll give it to Maya, actually. Ali is a broadcaster and columnist covering the Middle East with extensive focus on Lebanon, Iraq, and Iran. He is currently a correspondent for Jazeera English Channel. He is also a research fellow at Lancaster University's Sectarianism, Proxies and De-Sectarianization Project. And Ali, even though he's in the journalism world, which requires a lot more bravery than what many of us academics do, Ali often speaks like an academic, and kind of allows us to bridges the the two worlds of the ivory tower and the world of journalism. So we're glad to have you again, Ali. Shukran for coming back. I'll give Maya the floor to start the conversation.
Honestly, it's very difficult to shift.
I know. Yeah, and because Ali might have to leave at some point, so we are stuck. But if you'd like, I can just say,
Actually,
I have thick,
can continue.
I have thick skin, so I have to. Let me just say that the reason we wanted to have this conversation is because there is talk of imminent full-scale war between Israel and Hezbollah, and there's a lot of talk about the motives. There's a lot of talk about the schisms in Israel, and there's also the speech by the Secretary General Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah on Wednesday, which has been different in kind compared to previous speeches, and precisely this is why we'd like to speak with you, Ali. And the way you broke also, or the way you introduced, you were among the first, if not the first, to address the Hudhud journey and what it means, and your comments on social media were striking. And this is why we'd love to have this conversation with you, because it connects in the most organic way to what's happening in Gaza. So I'll let Maya lead with the questions.
Hi, Ali. Hi again. One of the, and before I get to a question, I think part of what's happening in Lebanon is a very such stark different experiences of this war, and that relate also to like the sort of collective psychology. The emotional terrain is so divided because the experience of this war is absolutely polarized, and that is not unrelated to what Hossam was talking about, which is that even these kinds of separations, we've always understood them. They've always happened, right? In Lebanon, we know this. We're kind of used to these psychological separations during a war that map onto particular maps of politics and maps of experience. But there is something even between the difference. But, we are so close. We are so close to Palestine. We are so close to Palestine. Here, like I'm in Beirut, every day I keep thinking, wow, I am so close. It's the same sea, it's the same sky, it's the same land. And it is a world away. And, that is part of the colonial project, to keep us so separated from each other at such small, it becomes almost like a suffocating intimacy. So with that, and a sort of one of the projects is to break this intimacy, but it will never happen. They're never, this will never be successful. So with that in mind, Ali, I wanted to ask you about how you see the last, maybe 2 weeks of escalation that are happening. If you see how you see them both within the rules of engagement over these last 8, now coming into 9 months, how these rules of engagement have shifted, if they, and in what direction are they shifting. And, there's been some conversation also about if these, the drone footage, for example, and the speech by Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah were actually attempts to reestablish deterrence. I saw you had also commented on this. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this, but also feel free. I mean, I think we're all having, feel free in your answer, how you would like to answer.
Maya, I'll start with first of all, thank you, Bassam and Maya, and of course, Hossam. We say in Arabic, مات الكلام. there's nothing even to say after what we heard from Hossam, and after, I mean, what we've been seeing over the past 8 months, and actually in like 2 weeks we'll be in the 9th month. And this war has been going on, destruction has been going on. I'd want to start from Naqoura, where I report normally when I'm covering for Al Jazeera. Naqoura is my father's village, and just behind Naqoura there is Bassa, which is in Palestine, which is my grandfather's village. So between our house in Palestine in Bassa and our house in Naqoura, where grandfather became first of all a refugee, and then he became Lebanese, there are only 5 kilometers air distance and 9 kilometers by car. So there is no possibility to disconnect or unlink. The bones of my grandmother are still in Bassa. And I'm sorry to get into this, but this is really important for me. Just like few months ago, one of our colleagues at Al Jazeera English went to the village of Bassa, which is now Shlomi in Palestine. And she went to the graveyard where my grandmother is supposed to be buried. There are no names on the graves because even the graves were destroyed. So what we're seeing in Gaza is just a continuation of what has started over 75, 80 years before. And today Gaza is the capital of this Israeli aggression war. And before, everywhere in Palestine was. And this is continuing, and it's not going to stop. From here, I'll start from South Lebanon and this link. I can say that most villages on the border between the Lebanese southern borders are right now small Gaza, or little Gaza, with a lot of destruction. Every town you go to, every village you go to within the borderline is either completely destroyed or partially destroyed. People are mourning their deaths, their sons, daughters, whoever was killed. I know that we have less civilians killed on the Lebanese side because of the deterrence that we want to talk about. Over the past 8 months, there's been a different kind of confrontation going on here from the Lebanese border. And actually, given the fact there is a kind of a balance of threat, of course, Hezbollah and Israel aren't equal in the might, but at the end, given the fact this is an asymmetrical warfare, the kind of weapons that Hezbollah has are enough to create this kind of balance and deterrence. At least this is what we can see. As far as we've been covering over the past months, Israel is still hitting mainly military targets. Hezbollah is still hitting mainly military targets, with some exceptions that are causing deaths. For example, in Lebanon, we have right now around 100 Lebanese civilians who have been killed over the past months, and of course we have around 300 fighters from Hezbollah, Harakat Amal, Palestinian groups, Islamic Jama'ah, the Lebanese Muslim Brotherhood, and whoever was fighting or whoever was part of this confrontation. Now, to get to what we've been talking about and what's been happening last week, we've been seeing a lot of escalation going on, but this is kind of a calculated escalation, because from the Lebanese side, from Hezbollah's side, this is aimed at establishing new rules and establishing a kind of a stronger deterrence. Why? Because the threat of a war in the south is becoming bigger. And Israel has been sending messages, different messages, through different mediations, whether it's the Europeans, mainly the French, whether it's the Americans, mainly the American envoy, Amos Hochstein, who happens to be also an Israeli originally. These threats have been arriving in Lebanon, and the main issue is that main request is to unlink the fronts. Hezbollah is linking the front in South Lebanon to the front in Gaza. Now, regardless of how people are assessing this front and its efficacy and its efficiency, whatever, the fact is that this front is currently creating a kind of a nightmare for Israel. And that's why currently we are hearing a lot of stances and positions coming from Israel regarding what to do with respect to this front. Now, this front now has its own very own objectives. Yani, what I mean here is that Israel wants to push Hezbollah, as we know, I'm not saying something new, behind towards the Litani River, and Hezbollah wants to stay on the border. Now, given the fact the threat of the war is ascending, is escalating, Hezbollah has been using new weapons. They have been introducing new weapons. We've been seeing also an attempt by Hezbollah to put this narrative of this war on camera. How? We saw that when they used the Almas missile and hit for example, the Iron Dome. You know, what's the narrative here is that the idea of having an Iron Dome network in Israel that can at least prevent the rockets from hitting the settlements, communities, could be something that Israel can't really count on, because whenever the Iron Dome itself is being hit, so what next? Yesterday also we saw some pictures from Hezbollah's media warfare showing a drone hitting the apparatus used to anticipate drones. So it's kind of, I mean, it's showing that the Israeli weapons are not really efficient in this regard. And we've been reading some reports in this regard, a bit of concern, especially within the American establishment, that Israel's defensive networks aren't going to really anticipate all the rockets that are going to hit. And actually, in my last week article for Foreign Policy, I revealed, quoting an Iranian source, that Hezbollah already has more than 1 million rockets, different kind of rockets. And I mean, that's logical. I mean, it's not something that we should be surprised of, because in 2007, Hassan Nasrallah said, just after the war in 2006, that his group was able to launch on daily basis 3,000 rockets. That means that in 2006 they had 1,000 rockets to launch, aside from the rockets that they didn't want to launch. So from 17 years ago till the moment, I mean, and Haaretz also spoke a few days ago about the hundreds of percent accumulation of weapons with respect to Hezbollah. So, I mean, this is one. Then we started seeing something different. The documentation of the attacks, and I'm going to say why. There's a reason. For example, there was an attack on an Israeli base in Khirbat Ma'ar on the border, and that was with drones, and it was documented with a drone. There was a drone that was filming the attack. Then came the Hudhud pictures. And actually, Hudhud isn't something that is surprising, because we saw Ayyub before in 2022 and in 2018, so I think maybe. So there was an Ayyub drone also that went into the skies and went across the border and came back. We go back even to 2004 when Hezbollah launched its first ever drone, Mirsad 1, and it went into the north. It went and then came back. And actually, when it fell in Nakhura, and people thought in 2004 that was an Israeli drone. Then it was revealed that this was a Hezbollah drone. It was the first time. Now, Why Hezbollah is documenting these things, and why are they showing these things? Because they are trying to prevent a war. This is from their own point of view. They want to prevent a war. They are preventing the war by escalating. They're preventing a war by showing not only their enemies, but also those backing their enemy, that there is a real threat, that Hezbollah is capable of changing the rules of the game. And there's something very interesting here, is that over the past 11 years, since the beginning of the war in Syria, the revolution first of all, and then the war, and Hezbollah's intervention in Syria, Israel has been hitting and targeting Hezbollah's supplies in Syria. And everyone was asking, and why Hezbollah isn't responding? Why Hezbollah is not retaliating? The fact is that Hezbollah was concentrating mainly on its main goal, which is getting the weapons into Lebanon. And Israel was doing what it needs to do to prevent these weapons from entering into Lebanon. So this was the framework of the battle. And that's why there was, for Hezbollah, it didn't mean anything to retaliate, because retaliating would take them into another battle. Israel called that kind of war a battle between wars. But the fact that Hezbollah already acquired all these game-changing weapons that Israel said it wouldn't allow, means that the battle between wars has failed. And now with Hezbollah already having these weapons with them, we can see them in this war. And they've been kind of very selective in the use of these weapons, because from the beginning, Hezbollah isn't illusional, by the way. They do not leave illusions. It seems, despite the fact they are ideological and they have their own ideology, but they're neither suicidal and they're neither delusional. So they know what they want to do. They're rational, and they think how to do it. And this is what we've been seeing. And if Hezbollah from the beginning of the war in Gaza just started launching missiles, then we'll have two Gazas. A Gaza and Lebanon, complete, the whole Lebanon will be a Gaza, and Gaza will be that won't change anything in Gaza. There will be a Gaza in Gaza. So Hezbollah, I think, was thinking that I need to keep as much weapons as possible ready for maybe the time when Israel wants to attack Lebanon, or I want to be able to end up with the most of my arsenal the time when there is going to be a deal in Gaza, so that even if one of the factions, which is Hamas, isn't getting out of this war in one shape, in one piece, at least there'll be another group or other groups that are in one piece, and that won't end their quest for liberation for the future according to their own vision. I know I spoke a lot, and I hope I answered the question.
No, Maya, can I jump in?
Yeah, no, this was incredibly informative. Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely, Ali. And the format of this particular conversation is conversational, but we will grill you more in a different setting about like trajectories and the things of that sort. But let me ask you this: yesterday, there was a clear announcement by the spokespersons in Israel that Israel cannot win the war in Gaza. It was a very clear pronouncement, and it went against Netanyahu's posture. That is happening at the same time as Israel seems to be gearing for a war with Hezbollah, which is far more challenging than anything it's done in the past 9 months, war-wise. How, from your vantage point, how do we reconcile these two things, and how much of it is a reflection of schisms within the cabinet, or the now cabinet in transition of sorts, in the war cabinet in Israel, and how much of it is psychological warfare and how much of it is simply what is going on, and reflecting perhaps a much worse reality in Israel. But this is what we see of it. Yani, how do you read this from where you're at?
Well, to be frank, my own argument is that there will be no all-out war. This is my own argument, and I wrote this last week. And I still don't see an all-out war. Maybe Israel will go for a major escalation in the south. It would try to maybe escalate its targeting in the south, hit more, maybe fiercely. I mean, yes, but I don't see till the moment that Israel is capable of launching a war in Lebanon. Why? Because to launch a war, I mean, for now, despite the fact they destroyed Gaza, they killed all the people that were killed, tens of thousands of people, and I'm very sure that many are still on the rubble also, children, total destruction. But I don't see a real picture of victory for Israel for the moment. And I'm not being kind of exaggerating the failures of Israel, but there is no picture. There is no real picture of victory for the moment. Because the issue about victories and defeats aren't really calculated upon the number of people killed, and aren't really calculated upon the number of residential buildings that are destroyed. Or else, the World War II would have been won by the other side, because the biggest number of people killed were on whose side? Or were on the Allies' side. I mean, it's not how things are being calculated. The issue is that you have objectives. Until the moment, the Israelis haven't been able to achieve their own announced objectives. Yes, there are many objectives that have been achieved, of course. Probably Hamas isn't the same Hamas like before. Gaza isn't Gaza, the one that was before. The other resistance factions aren't so. But for the moment, there is a main objective that Prime Minister Netanyahu set and said, I want to annihilate Hamas, which is not happening. So this is one thing. The second thing, this is a state right now that is living a kind of a schizophrenia. There are kind of clashes between its main officials. And when we see Yadi'at Ahranot having some leaks coming from Halivi, and then Haaretz revealing that the commander of the commander-in-chief is leaking to hit Netanyahu, and Netanyahu having issues with his allies. I mean, there is something really very disturbing over here. We don't see people on the same page. Now, they have all the weapons of the world. Okay, what about Lebanon? How is this government going to launch a war in Lebanon, given the fact that in Lebanon, the situation is completely different from Gaza? Yani, Hezbollah's weapons are different. Doing a ground invasion in Lebanon, I think, is going to be a dream for Hezbollah. I think Hezbollah would want to see Israel doing a ground invasion. Because in 2006, and I covered the war in 2006, it took Israel 33 days. I mean, okay, let me say, it took Israel around 26 days to have a breakthrough, 26 days of fighting with 2,000 fighters across the border to be able to get through the area called Mashru' al-Taibeh to get close to Litani River. And then they were hit with an ambush and they had to get back. Yani the idea is that getting into Lebanon with ground forces isn't something that's easy, that's going to be easy for Israel, especially now that we're not talking about Hezbollah of 2006 with 2,000 fighters. Hezbollah today is tens of thousands of fighters. Besides, in 2006, Cornet, Hezbollah had like maybe 10, 15 cornets, which is the guided missile, the anti-tank guided missile. Today, it's different, and there are many other kind of weapons. And I'm not talking about things that we didn't see. I'm talking about things that we are seeing on daily basis through the videos coming from South Lebanon or from the north. So getting into such an adventure would be a suicidal decision by the Israeli government. And such a suicidal decision actually won't rid them from the answers that they have to give over what happened in Gaza and the envelope of Gaza just on the 7th of October. So that's why I think that the Israelis for now are escalating with and threatening with the hope that they can maybe impose a kind of a situation where Hezbollah will decide to withdraw, or to the Lebanese government will exert pressure on Hezbollah to give some concessions, which I don't see happening. So we are in this situation where, personally, I expect that this war, especially in South Lebanon, might extend for another year. I don't see it ending anytime soon. Though, for example, my father was telling me, "Wallah, next time when you come, we'll be in Naqoura." I said, "Inshallah," but I don't see that happening, because there is no possibility for this war to end, and there is no possibility for now for this war to get into a wide-scale war. So we are going to stay in this situation of war of attrition, and maybe escalation every now and then, big hits here, big hits there, creating new rules of engagement, let me say updating the rules of engagement every now and then. Then there's going to be a moment, a crazy moment, and this is what I'm afraid of, the crazy moment that Israel will decide, okay, we don't have any other choices, we'll have to go for this war, and then it's going to be a regional disaster. I mean, it's not. I mean, Lebanon is going to be destroyed. We know that, but also Israel is going to be destroyed. The Mediterranean is going to be just like the Red Sea, and Nasrallah said that in his speech a couple of days ago. He said the Mediterranean is going to be part of this. So I mean, I don't see really something different coming.
Wow.
Sure.
Yeah. Maya, before we go back to Hossam, do you want to do a follow-up? I know you might have to leave as well.
No, I mean, I had wanted to hear from Ali about what he thought of as the sort of minimalist and maximalist scenarios. But I think you've sketched them out. If you want to add something, like, so from what I understand, you imagine, like, the minimalist scenario is this war of attrition that lasts as long as the war in Gaza lasts.
And
Whether
Ali, sorry, go ahead.
and the maximalist scenario is this large regional war. I don't know if you have any more details you would want to add on that. I would like to hear like what that maximalist scenario would look like, particularly with the sort of threat on Cyprus and Cyprus's relations to the European Union and to Europe and to Turkey. And
Turkey.
then that sort of Turkey. It's a whole.
The Turks are getting ready.
أي والله. خليهم يعني. Anyway.
Before Ali, before I forget, do you mind if we add a link to your article in the post that will come out after this conversation?
But I also wanted to just comment on this idea of winners and losers. Like, there are strategic goals that are set that you can judge, success and failure are. But I think it's very hard to imagine, a winning scenario for everyone has lost, right? Everyone has lost. It's a war. And I think that's sometimes something that we have to really sort of sit with. What does it mean for everybody to lose and for strategic objectives not to be met, being sort of the measure in the geopolitical scene, but we've all lost. Everybody's losing. And there are no winners in this kind of war, and in this kind of just daily turning into like the life into this environment of death and killing. So that was, I don't know, Ali, if you wanted to add some details onto this, what the maximalist scenario might look like. It sounds like you also imagine then that the war in Gaza will continue for another year, unless you're saying
Well,
that
I
there
don't,
may be a ceasefire in
I don't see
Gaza
for now.
and the attrition might continue in the south.
For now, I don't see a reason why. I mean, what's going to happen that would make Israel stop its war, except for just, I mean, for just announcing that it's going to stop, without achieving the real objectives. Sinwar was not killed, Daif is not killed. To them, these were main objectives that they also wanted to achieve. They're not achieved. Gaza is destroyed, completely destroyed, as we heard from Hossam. And of course, Hossam comes from there, and he knows more than us what's there on the ground and how people feel and how things are. Now we are watching from outside. I'm kind of preaching from outside because I see things from outside, I don't see things from inside. But with respect to the situation, whereas Israel will stop this war without an agreement, without a prisoner swap, without anything, I mean that's going to be a bold move by Netanyahu. I don't know actually if he's capable of doing that. This is one. Regarding the maximalist scenario, I mean, if a war starts, an all-out war starts, they started hitting Beirut, and Hezbollah starts hitting Tel Aviv, and I mean, who can expect really what to expect? I think it's the motto. The motto will be expect the unexpected. No one can really predict how this is going to end, and maybe what Nasrallah said a couple of days ago could happen. He said, okay, the Galilee is going to be taken, and this is something that he said before. But I mean, what kind of a war we are going to witness? It's an unconventional war, something that we've never seen before. Actually, what we are seeing, Maya and Bassam and Hossam, over the past 8 months is something that we've never seen before. This is the longest war in our history. 8 months going on, daily war, daily bombardment, and on several, let me say, fronts in different ways. This is unprecedented, and that this war started in a very surreal way, and it's going to end in a very surreal way. This is my own point of view, because it's impossible for a war that started with October 7 to end, with a deal. I don't see it ending with a deal. So I don't have a picture. I can't really expect.
شكرا علي.
I was
I hope you-
thinking هلا كنت عم بتذكر كنت عم بحكي with my dad about قصة المطار. قال لي ايه انه بس انه مطار بيروت already انه مدمر انه ايه انه this is also the difference that we're talking about here, right? Is that like the kind of what it would take رمزيا practically and also to cause these kinds of mutual destruction in a scenario that we haven't seen before ever. So I'm back at sorry بس
No, بالعكس. I mean, this is why we're doing this. This is not a teaching or anything. We're just talking. وهلا I would like to go back to Hossam. Ali, I have a couple of things I'd like to ask you, but I would like to get Hossam's view. And I know Hossam, أنت قلت لي ما بدك تحكي سياسي وأنت مش يعني this is not what you do. بس how do you see what's happening, or do you even how do you see what's happening outside Gaza in terms of شو إسرائيل عم تعمل مش بس مع Hezbollah, what Israel is doing, not just with Hezbollah, but in general. There's a lot of talk in the past 2-3 weeks. We as the Arab Studies Institute, Jadaliyya, the Gaza and Context Project, which is all of them co-sponsoring these conversations. We monitor the discourse, and there is a marked increase in the past few weeks, like significant, especially this past week or 10 days. That something about the end of Zionism is near, or this is the beginning of the end of apartheid, and Israel is imploding. How do you see this from your perspective, من وجهة نظرك؟ كيف بتشوف هذا الكلام وكيف بتشوف الحديث عن حرب أكبر شاملة بالمنطقة؟ How do you see a regional war from your own perspective? Before we get back to a couple of things I would love to ask you about your time in Gaza, and I hope that this will not be the only time we'll speak.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me say that I hope that will not be more wars. I hope that will not be extra wars erupted anywhere, not in Lebanon, not in Palestine, not any place, because victims of wars is always are the innocent people. Politicians are in their bunkers. Their relatives are safe somewhere outside here and there, and only innocent people are paying the main price, and that's not fair, not justice, and not right. Well, unfortunately, the whole we are a little bit disappointed as Palestinians. We saw all of those waves of support from Europe, America, the students, and we started to raise some hope with this. What we believe that it is a change that might bring a human rights agenda stronger to be put on the table on the Security Council and the United Nations, but with the rise of the rightists, the right left in Europe, we were really very disappointed and lost this glimpse of hope that we had from these movements. Personally, I don't want to lose the hope. I cannot lose the hope. I cannot live without a hope. Well, little politics, we know our life all is politics, and we talk, we chat, me and my friends from Gaza here. We see that Israel is going to deep religious, ideological state where all the left, the moderate movements inside Israel are losing the voice. The liberals are losing the voice. And I don't know, we think that the collapse of Israel will come from within. Israel is very strong country, not only by itself, but because it is supported by the West and mainly the United States, I mean, who are going to do everything to protect Israel. And we know that Gaza is not fighting Israel. Hamas is not fighting Israel. Hamas is fighting many European and the United States at the same time. And there are, and we know, and everybody knows that there are plenty of soldiers from different countries than the Israelis are taking part in this war. We know, and they announced that there are hundreds of drones belongs to the UK army, to the US army in the sky of Gaza. So why not them hitting us and killing us? So this little poor Gaza is not fighting against Israel. But again, any state goes to deep ideology where it starts to eliminate the other voice, to eliminate the differences, the diversity in within. It will eat itself. I don't know if we are delusional or daydreamers to see Israel is ending itself by moron people, by lunatic people like these Smotrich or Ben Gavir, who are really, from an outside look, I could see, and if I consider myself completely neutral, not even a Palestinian, I would say loudly, hey, careful, be careful. Those kind of people are hurting you as a state. And I think they will go on. They will go on. Unfortunately, we, the Palestinians, are the one who are going to pay the huge price for these lunatic people. What is happening now in West Bank is another war, but because it is much bigger in Gaza, nobody is paying attention to what's happening there. There are invasions and killings every single day in West Bank. There is excavation and destruction for many cities and villages in West Bank on a daily basis. There is confiscations of lands and building new settlements every day in West Bank. More than 9,300 people has been arrested without any trial since the 7th of October only in West Bank. So it is the Palestinian who are seems to be cursed. I don't know. I'm sorry, but we are targeted by this Zionist movement, and because they don't want to see us. They don't want to see Palestinians, and they took this chance, they took this opportunity by committing this genocide in Gaza as part of their dreams not to see Palestinians there. Well, I will say a slogan now. We are there. We will stay there. We have no other place to go but there.
Maya, do you want to share anything before you might have to go?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Bassam.
Hossam, أول شيء, let me say that we're getting several comments. Well, I'm getting comments directly from people saying different things, but specifically saying that they can hear you. هن عم يسمعوك. بس and they want you to know that they hear what you're saying and they feel what you're saying. I just want to let you know that this is the case. And before, do you mind staying with us for a little bit longer, Hossam?
That's fine. I'm with you. I'm with you, Hassan.
لأنه I would like to go to Ali because he does have to go, and who knows what he has to cover right now. But Ali, and I have a question. I have a question for you about Hassan Nasrallah's speech. Can you? I'm assuming you're quite a bit younger than I am, or a bit younger at least. And I've from the early 1990s, even before. Yani I'm tuned into all of these sorts of particular spectacles by certain leaders in the region, and then in the 1990s, the speeches of Hassan Nasrallah were considered more than just political rhetoric, especially that there's a level of honesty that in those speeches, whatever one thinks, that actually comports with what's happening on the ground. Yani, there's very little psychological warfare. There's very little obfuscation. And this speech was, as far as I saw it, was quite different from all of the previous speeches in the past 8.5 months. And it just seemed to me that the Hizballah is taking the prospect of a more serious war with Hezbollah, is taking it far more seriously. And at the same time, I have your opinion, and I've shared it online, and I've shared it with others, that I don't see a war coming, because it will be it's irrational on the part of Israel, but that's that. Do you see the speech as different, and why?
Well, in fact, he said that the speech is different. From the beginning of the speech, he said, over the past 8 months, I've been saying that the field is going to talk. This time I have to talk. In the past months, his speeches were mainly, let me say, very careful. He didn't want to raise the stakes. He didn't want to give hopes for anyone who's betting on him getting into the war. I mean, into the wider war in an all-out form. Yet this time, there are two elements that we have to take into consideration when we assess Nasrallah's speech, or three elements. One element is the already ongoing Israeli threat of a war in Lebanon. This is ongoing. Second thing, he was talking in the at the event, at the ceremony of the first week of the killing of his commander, Abu Talib, the guy responsible for a Nasr unit, which is known to be the first front. I mean, he is the defender of the front, the first front. So this guy is his border guard, and he was killed. And that's very important for Nasrallah to show his fighters, his environment, his people, that we are not weak. We can do something. We can change the
head of Sariyat Nasr or Wahdat Nasr.
Wahdat Nasr. And third of all, the speech came after the visit of Amos Hochstein, the American Hochstein, the American envoy, and him conveying a message to the Lebanese government, even to Hezbollah through the mediators, that Israel is saying that it's going to hit Beirut, it's going to destroy Beirut, and Lebanon will be another Gaza. And actually, according to what I've heard from Lebanese politicians who met Hochstein, not only in this visit, some of them in previous visits, that Hochstein didn't actually didn't only convey threats. He was showing them pictures from Gaza. He was showing them, this is going to happen in Lebanon. So the fact is that Nasrallah had to respond and had to draw his red lines clearly, and had to say that now we are starting a very new, let me say, round in this war, a new level in this war. So that's why, I mean, and also we have to take into consideration his Hudhud, his drone came with all these pictures. So he had to also do his psychological warfare. And what you were saying regarding Nasrallah's speeches, I mean, I'm 44. So in 1992, when he became Secretary General, I was 12. But I was a bit lucky because I have this interest in politics since I was a kid. So I was always watching news and following news. So the fact is that when this guy came, he was only 32 years old. He was a very young man. And no one really was used to such young people taking responsibilities and then jumping into the field in such a very strong way. His rhetoric, he depends a lot on this is what at least my observations are, on saying whatever is going to happen precisely without exaggeration. And this is why his psychological warfare really succeeded in getting into the Israeli houses, because they knew that whenever he speaks, he knows what he's talking about. And we remember his very famous 2006 speech when he hit the Israeli warship, Al-An fi Ard al-Bahr. I mean, these points give Nasrallah a lot of credibility, even with those who do not believe him, even with those who do not support him. They have to believe him because they know at the end this guy is not playing. He knows what he is doing. Yeah. So this speech, I think, was he was heralding a new, let me say, a new phase, because the Israelis already started a new phase. It's not only because he won.
And he repeated the ما بعد Haifa on purpose.
Yeah, Of course, and what he said about the hudhud, about the drone, that the drone has pictures from the city number 2, city number 3, city number 4, city number 5. And that means that, I mean, for me, for example, with respect to the drone itself, I would like just to comment on something. There were some analysis here saying that this is a very small drone that can work for like 30 minutes and has the distance. It can go into, I mean, about 30 kilometers. Personally, I don't see that, because this plane has been filming for hours, and it's not a drone that can film only for 30 minutes. So there are some, I think in the coming days we will know more about what happened.
Very quickly, I just want to note that in this entire conversation, when it came to Hezbollah, between yourself, Maya, and myself, I just realized that we're talking about Hezbollah and Israel in a way that is realistic. We could be, I mean, we're not infallible. We could have made problematic analysis here and there, but we hardly mentioned Iran. And I just want to note that if this conversation was happening in the United States, in anywhere public where the dominant discourse is actually at work, it will be, half of it will be about Iran. And it's interesting that when we're talking about Hezbollah, we're talking about Hezbollah. Not that there's no connection with Iran, but it's interesting that we, the different approach to the realities of Hezbollah, when people who, I don't want to say from the region, because there are people here who actually understand this reality, and how the dominant discourse, whether it's in Europe or in the United States, cannot talk about Hezbollah and cannot talk about scenarios without bringing Iran right front and center, as if Hezbollah is simply a tool of Iran. So I just wanted to comment on that, to say that. All right. I know you will have to go, but Maya has a question, and then we will release you so you can do what you need to do.
It's more of a comment. I mean, I see this difference in how we talk about Hezbollah, Lebanon, Palestine, Gaza, is because we understand that these are also, I mean, I think sometimes when you watch American news, it's like nobody actually lives in South Lebanon. The people don't matter. What matters are these kinds of huge geopolitical formations, and there's no rational acting outside of this fantasy. It's like kapsitzer, right? Like Iran makes this decision, and people just follow. And there's a similar, and it's part of, I would argue this is part of dehumanization. There are no people in South Lebanon. There are no people in Gaza. There is Hamas. There is Hezbollah. And that's maybe the difference here in our tenor of speaking. Not in denial of the kind of geopolitical, regional, very deep relationships and ideological alliances, but rooted in the knowledge that actually of the people of South Lebanon and their experiences since 1948, 47, 48, and the people of Gaza and their experiences. And I think that's something that we should amplify as much as whenever possible, because it's not a coincidence when you just speak about these geographies as if all there are fighters. That's not a coincidence.
That's right.
Okay. Ali, will you promise to join us in the future?
Well, I'm always happy to join you guys.
We would love to have you. And
to
thank you, Azizi. And I hope to see you in Lebanon.
We heard. Thanks a lot for your testimony.
شكرا لك, شكرا للتستموني تبعك, and I hope to see you in Lebanon in better times, both in South Lebanon and Gaza. And thank you always for being lucid and inspiring and illuminating. Shukran. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Salam.
Bye bye.
Assalamu alaikum.
حسام طولنا شوي عليك بس كتير أنا حابب نكمل الحديث على منحى آخر. I'm really interested in continuing the conversation in a different direction, but first let me ask Maya if she has some questions before she might have to leave us.
No, well, I do sadly have to leave you. I wanted to leave with a comment of appreciation for Hossam. My undergraduate degrees
I
in
sorry, I need to open the door for my daughter and my wife. Just
Okay.
2 seconds.
No,
Sorry,
خد
sorry.
وقتك. خد وقتك.
and the dog.
Maya, do you have any questions for me?
No, I have zero questions for you.
Excellent. Okay. And I have a question for you.
خير.
You have to answer in 20 seconds. Since you've written a remarkable book called Sectarianism on Lebanon, which addresses a lot of these, some of these matters, one day I would like to actually speak with you about some broader questions, perhaps when things settle a bit. But now that Hussam is back, we're going to have to...
Yeah, sorry for that.
أهلا, huh?
أهلا بكم. أهلا بكم.
I'll let you continue, Maya.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on this note of really like my undergraduate degree is in theater. أنا اشتغلت بالمسرح هون بلبنان شوي and اشتغلت with children's theater, and I know how important
Yeah.
that work is, and how important it is to insist on any grasp of joy you can bring to people. So I would love to, if at some point we get to have another conversation, talk to you about this work that you're doing and how you see the future of this kind of work in this future that we will insist on. بغزة.
Well, at least for the time being, and luckily we got some fund from UNICEF and many other international partners to give some kind of a support, psychological first aid, recreational activities for the children in Gaza. I have to say, we are doing this since 2014, no, even 2009, the first assault on Gaza. Until today, I joined MAN in 2014, managing these interventions, and we used to be like 20 to 30, 40 staff members. Now we have at least 115. They're not enough. Whatever we do is still very, very little, but without it, the children will suffer more, will absolutely suffer more. So they have at least a chance for 1 hour or 2 hours per day for going out of the reality by expressing themselves through art, playing music, just speaking out, and so on. So this is what we do, and this is really, I'm proud of my colleagues in the field because they are doing the impossible. I have to say, they are part of this ongoing massacre. They are suffering also to secure a shelter for themselves and their families. They are suffering to secure the food they need for their families, the water, the safety. But at the same time, they are really committed and going on daily basis to the shelters. The formal, what we call formal shelters, is inside schools. Non-formal shelters, it is a bulk of tents, 20, 50 tents with thousands of people within. They find a space in between in order to play with the children and to do something with them. They are really heroes, really heroes. What can I say? It is heartbreaking, between the war 2014 until 2021, around 40 to 50,000 young men left Gaza. And as a theater maker, I felt responsible to flag this issue and to show those young people that migration or going to Europe just like that is not really a salvation for their problems in Gaza. So we made the play The Immigrants, from a Polish writer who was immigrant himself in the 60s, called The Immigrant. His name is Slavomir Merzhek. and it is about two immigrants in one city in the West, and they just suffer the daily life, suffer the homesickness, suffer the lack of opportunity, suffer the lack of recognition from the place that they are in, and I thought that is important to show our young people in Gaza. And now I question myself, was that a good advice for the people to stay in Gaza and now they're facing the death? Well, I know it is right. I know people must stay on their lands, on their homes, protect it, and build their own future and life in it. But at the same time, every individual have the chance for opportunity to live. Nevertheless, where or how? This has been taken from us. This is taken from 2.3 million people, where 60% of them are under 35 years old. Before 7th October, there were 50% unemployment. Now it is 95% unemployment. So imagine how people are living with very little quantities of food aid entering, and interrupting the entry by the gangs, the Israeli government, and the gangs they deploy in the streets, leading these convoys of aids to reach Gaza, by destroying Rafah, by preventing food aid to enter from Rafah crossing, leaving people suffering, really suffering. I just don't understand how a human being can think that this is good to do. Let's make others suffer. Let's starve people. Let's kill people. You know, I wrote something the other day. I remember a phrase from a movie, Magnificent Seven of Denzel Washington. The evil character in the movie answering of why he is hurting these villagers, and that evil character was saying, if God didn't want them to be shaved, He would haven't created them sheeps. Is this what the Israelis think about us, or something similar? Are they really sleep with full shut eye, calm, clear conscious, have no slang of guilt toward killing all of these people, making all of these people suffering? They're not fighters, they're civilians, they're babies, they're children, they're women, they're old people, they're sick people, they're people who are building homes to live. People are thinking to get married, to have a family. They're just the human beings. Why? Because we have a different language, because we believe in a different religion, because we are not blonde or with blue eyes. Why it is so easy to kill us? Why it is so easy for the West and for the Americans to accept killing us in this brutal way? Why? I just cannot understand. Maybe maybe as it is said in the movie, if God wouldn't want us to be shaved, He wouldn't create us as sheeps. Is it?
I don't think we should. I think one of the things that we've seen very clearly is the absolute power of the United States,
Yep.
where it can really make decisions and does take decisions for the entire world. And this kind of the brutality of that kind of power is something that we've obviously seen many, many times when it comes from the United States. I'm talking here about the history of the United States, whether the history of the United States and the settlement of the United States with indigenous people, with Black Americans, we should never forget there's only one country in the world that's ever dropped a nuclear bomb. That's the United States.
Yes.
And on and on and on. So the kind of brutality and dehumanization and the ability to wreak such havoc and death on people around the world and in the making of the United States. The really tragic, disgusting part is that it happens too often, right? I mean, I'm not saying that this is actually part of the history of the United States and how it became so powerful. And that's kind of the terrifying. I've been thinking about that a lot. Just like the brutality of this kind of power, of having this amount of power, this kind of power. But I don't think Hussam, nobody could have predicted nobody, حتى like no matter what we live through, no one can predict this kind of even like aswa, your worst imagination wouldn't have
Never.
come. Yeah.
I'm 56 years old. I went through war of 82, the Intifada, 7 years from 87 to 93, the second Intifada from 2000, the first military assault on Gaza in 2008, 2009, 2012, 2014, 2018, the targeting of the children, the Great March of Return, the purposive targeting of children, the assault on 21, 22, 23 last May, and now I never imagined that something like this would happen. And I just hope to close my eyes and open it back and see that this was a nightmare and awake from it, or at least this nightmare to stop. It's already too much.
Hussam, given that you were able to leave Gaza at a point in the last few weeks to 2 months, can you just tell us a little bit about what you're hearing about the Rafah crossing? And طبعا it's been different since a few weeks ago as well, but what have you been hearing in terms of the movement in and out of people or goods from people in Rafah or in Gaza?
Well, the first 2-3 weeks of invasion of Rafah, nothing entered through Rafah, nothing at all. Some food aid came through Israel in the north, what's it called, Kisufim, or I don't know what entry. They created one along the beach with the border with Beit Lahiya, the last city on the border with Israel and in the north. And then they reached a kind of an agreement to allow some food aid entry from Karm Abu Salim. That's like 2 kilometers from Rafah crossing. Now the quantities are very, very little. The daily consumption on normal for Gaza people, it was around 500 truckloads. The Israelis, since October 7th, they don't allow more than 150 or 200 by the maximum. In many occasions, nothing entered. In many days, there were less than 100 truckload. The majority is canned food, so people are only living on canned food. The only vegetables available in Gaza is 4 types of vegetables: tomato, potato, cucumber, and lemon. Nothing else. Nothing else. You can imagine you live on canned food and this type of vegetables only when and these vegetables are, if you have access to it, only when you can afford it. The majority of people has zero money, so they cannot afford it. So they live with the food can and the humanitarian aid, which is not reaching many people, absolutely not reaching, because it is not enough, but also because there is also a kind of anarchy in Gaza. Unfortunately, there are lots of gangs that started to steal and to sell back in the market with more prices. So, and yeah, it like in any place when there is where there is absence of law, which the Israelis made their best to target the civil police, the security stations, the police stations, anything related to any any ruling administration of Gaza, a civil administration. They destroy it, and they targeted them. They targeted the municipality mayors and workers. They targeted paramedics and doctors. They targeted every the civil defense. They bombed the ambulances, the trucks and the bulldozers, which cleaning the solid waste. People are living between solid waste and sewage allays in the streets and in between their tents, because there is no services at all. All of this infrastructure has been targeted and destroyed. So there is a real famine. There are families who are not having more than one meal every 2 or 3 days in Gaza. And I'm saying Gaza, I mean all of Gaza Strip, from Rafah to Beit Hanun and middle area, Khan Yunis and Gaza City. People are really, really suffering.
Hossam, I also have a few other questions related to your own work, but I'm realizing that we have kept you for 100 minutes now, and بدي أسألك إذا ممكن نرجع نشوفك مرة تانية وتخبرنا عن عملك وعن your journal. I'd love to see if it's a possibility with you to host you again, where you can tell us about your own work and since October and your journal, because I've read some of your journal entries, and we would love to, if you are okay with it, and if you can choose whatever you like, but if you're okay with the concept and the principle, to share with us some of your journal entries. But maybe because I know it's 11 o'clock, coming up on 11 p.m. at your location. Would you be able to share this with us next time?
With great pleasure. Sure, Hassan. Why not?
We would
This
love
is why
that.
I'm writing. I would love.
And we'd love to ask you about your own work in theater and beyond, and also about what are people that who are younger, who are in Gaza today in this field, what are they doing, and what kind of prospects in another dimension, what kind of prospects are there for people to continue their education? As I've shared with you before when we spoke, there are so many organizations and universities here in the United States, and I'm assuming elsewhere as well, who are working with people from Gaza so that they don't interrupt their education. So we can also talk about this and have these other conversations at a different time, so that we don't keep you much longer. And if Maya wants to close with anything, or and then before we close, I'll ask you for your last words before we close. But Maya, عندك شيء؟
لا, I wanted to actually give the last word to Hossam and look
طبعا.
forward to meeting again.
Hossam, you're going to conclude this conversation with whatever comes to your mind, I hope.
I want to go home. I just want to go home. Nothing else.
شكرا حسام.
شكرا
لك، شكرا كتير كتير انك كنت معنا، ولصراحتك ولا حديثك ومشاعرك وعواطفك وشاركتنا فيهم. انا بعتز انه قدرت احكي معك.
الله يسعدك حبيبي، الله يسعدك.
شكرا كتير. Thank you so much.
شكرا لكم، يعطيكم الف عافيه. شرفت فيكم، شرفنا معي، شرفنا.
نحكي.
الى اللقاء.
الى اللقاء.
الى اللقاء. الى اللقاء. مع السلامه.